Howdy. In this video I'm going to show you how I managed to create a similar aesthetic to games such as A Short Hike and older Animal Crossing games. I am using this specific look for my upcoming game. This was achieved in Unity 3D with the Universal Render Pipeline. First thing you want to do is create your models and animations in Blender. And make sure you apply Auto Smooth or Smooth to the model in object mode before exporting them for Unity. In Unity 3D, there exists a terrain tool that lets you paint terrain formations on a surface. This is very handy and lets you save tons of time during your workflow process. However, there are two things missing from the base Unity terrain shader, which I personally think are crucial for efficiently creating toon terrain. Triplanar mapping and toon ramping style lighting and shadows. Last week, I found one such shader from Amirave's GitHub page, which lets you apply triplanar mapping to a Unity URP terrain with up to 5 different materials, including the cliff material. I have included the link to the GitHub in the comments below. After testing the shader for a while, I realized that something was missing: the toon shading look. This is important, as it is something that I could not find included in any custom terrain shaders online. So for the next 3 days, I spent my time learning about custom shaders for Unity URP and eventually came up with this modified version of Amirave's HLSL script, which, for as far as I've tested, does just what I want it to do. Well, technically it is 4 scripts, but only one of them had to be modified. Here's a disclaimer: I use this on the 2022.3.3 F1 version of Unity. I cannot guarantee it will work on other Unity versions. Now here's how to apply the shader to the terrain. Step 1. Import the 4 files from GitHub into your project. Step 2. Create new material and assign its shader to be the toon terrain one. Step 3. Assign its toon ramp texture, which is usually a 1/28 by 2 pixel flat gradient of shades of gray to white. Step 4. Assign its cliff texture, used for vertical edges of your terrain. Step 5. Assign that material to the material slot in your terrain. Step 6. Play around with the height transition and wall cutoff settings. Step 7. Get cooking. This custom terrain shader should now do the following. It allows you to paint over terrain with 5 different materials and triplanar mapping. The material should have toon shading for lighting and shadows with the toon ramp. It should work with URP fog. It should also work with additional lights, including shadows. Next, for the pixelated look, you might have heard of using a render texture before, downscaling the image from it. Personally, when I'm trying to achieve this look in URP, I prefer to use the render scale setting located in the Universal Render Pipeline asset. Finally, you'll also need the same custom shader as the terrain to be used for the models in your scene that do not need triplanar mapping, such as your characters and props. For this, I followed Ned Makes Games tutorial on YouTube for a shader graph. I have also included the link for that in the comments below. I have modified Nate's shader graph a little, so here's my modified version of the main graph. The main difference here is I included ambient light calculations, as I needed the materials to be darker at night, since my game has a day and night cycle. I have also made modifications to take into account fog color. I will now show you my URP settings and shadow settings, as it is something that I had to tweak a lot to get the look to work. Anyways, if you'd like to stay updated on the status of my upcoming game, you can subscribe to my channel and follow my Twitter and/or Blue Sky. I have included the links to those in the comments as well. Finally, I know the tutorial might seem incomplete, as I have not included water shaders, my day-night cycle logic, or the built-in render pipeline version of this shader. This would have taken the tutorial way too long, and I'm still tweaking those anyways, as they have some slight issues. I do have the built-in render pipeline version of this custom terrain shader as well, which is also a modification of yet another triplanar mapping shader. I could make a video on that one too, but keep in mind that if you are starting a new project, you probably should consider using URP over built-in render pipeline, as the latter is not compatible with important features such as VFX graph. That's it for me.